So, it's another week, another change, another alteration to the upcoming live-action remake of Snow White. But this time, Disney's gone ahead and they're changing the origins behind the actual name of Snow White, the character herself, which is all kinds of crazy. So guys, before we dive into this article and talk about what's going on with the actual origins being changed for the name of Snow White itself, let's just check out this list that I made here of everything that's going wrong with this project, then we'll dive into this article. So, when it comes to the live action remake, there's going to be no kiss from the prince, there's going to be no apple scene. Rachel Zegler came out and called the prince a stalker. There's no real actual dwarf actors in this movie, it's all CGI. The skin as white as snow is being changed, that origin for the Snow White name. The evil witch is actually better looking than Snow White herself. Rachel Zegler's comments towards the original version being outdated, there was a lot of backlash from that. The massive amount of YouTube dislikes sits at 1.2 million. The son of the original director, who made the original movie, the son, he came out and said, quote, "I know my dad and Walt Disney would disagree with this. I disagree with the whole concept." He said that about this live action remake. And also, the budget is now ballooned to over $300 million for this movie. So that's just a few things there that's going wrong with this project, guys. I'm sure there's probably more, but I couldn't think of any more off the top of my head. Let me know down in the comment section if you can think of any more. But with that down, let's jump into this article and let's see what's going on with the alteration to the name of Snow White. So this comes to us from Cosmic Book News. Rachel Zegler reveals a new Snow White origin for Disney movie. So, Disney Snow White gets an updated origin story for the upcoming movie, starring Rachel Zegler as the titular character and Gal Gadot as the evil queen. So, in the original story, Snow White is called the name because her skin is as white as snow. Obviously, everybody who knows anything about the classic Snow White movie, back in the day, that was where her name came from. That was the origin, her skin is as white as snow. Everybody knows that. People learned that as a kid. That was just the origin behind the name. Like, that's just common knowledge between a lot of people, you know. However, the Disney movie drops the skin as white as snow origin and explains that it is a baby princess who survived a snowstorm, so her parents give her that name. What? I know that this has been around, like, I think this has been around since the 90s when they changed the origin for another movie. I believe this comes from a 90s movie, if I'm not mistaken. But, yeah, I think it's ridiculous. They don't want the skin as white as snow because it might offend people. We have this woke kind of snowflake culture where you can't say, you know, skin as white as snow. It has to be changed. And I'm sure a lot of people will disagree with the fact that this is being changed. And a lot of people will be very, very upset that more of the traditional Snow White is now being changed with this skin as white as snow being erased. Like I say, I think a lot of fans will be, not very happy with that. So, via Variety, as for the line about skin as white as snow, Zegler reveals that the new film has its own origin story for her name. Quote, "It fell back to another version of Snow White that was told in history, where she survived a snowstorm that occurred when she was a baby," she says. "And so the king and queen decided to name her Snow White to remind her of her resilience. One of the core points of our film is that any young woman or young person is remembering how strong you actually are." Great. You're a strong, independent person. You don't need no one else. Like all this kind of underpinning, kind of like moral compass, virtual signaling BS that Disney is trying to insert into this movie. It's not going to go down well. People aren't going to fall for it. People aren't as dumb as what Disney think they are. And people are going to catch on to this kind of crap. And it's just going to lead to further backlash, in my opinion. Obviously, we've got the official poster here. I have to say, the poster doesn't look atrocious. But again, what Rachel Zegler looks like here as Snow White, I think this was miscast massively. I just don't... She doesn't resemble Snow White, in my opinion. She doesn't look like a Snow White character. And, yeah, I mean... It just is what it is. A lot of people really don't like this actress at the moment. So, Rachel Zegler came under fire for her comments regarding the original animated classic, which we kind of alluded to at the start with my list. She called the movie weird and said that Prince Charming is a stalker. That went down so badly with the main sort of movie-going audience. Calling Prince Charming a stalker. He's a major character in the story. And obviously, True Love's first kiss, it wakes her up when she's asleep. And bashing on the prince wasn't a good way to go. However, now she changed her tune and says romance is still part of the film. So she says, quote, in all honesty, it made me sad that it was taken in such a way because I believe that a woman can do anything. But I also believe that they can do everything, Zegler says. What she meant to convey was that Snow White wants romance but has other goals too. I would never want to box someone in and say, if you want love, then you can't work. Or if you want to work, then you can't have a family. It's not true. It's never been true. And it can be very upsetting when things get taken out of context or jokes that don't land, Zegler says. The love story is very integral. A lot of people wrote that we weren't doing that storyline anymore. We were always doing it. It just wasn't what we were talking about on that day. So according to her, the love story is still part of the movie. Even though she's came out and called the prince a stalker, that he's weird, that the story is majorly outdated. So she's trying to backtrack on the comments that she made. They got her a load of backlash. Obviously, Disney, the PR team at Disney has probably had a word with her and said, you know, we need to try and change this image before the movie comes out. We need to try and backtrack on some of your commentary on the original movie. And she's tried to backtrack a little bit. But people aren't dumb. People are catching on to it. They know exactly what she's trying to do. And we're kind of onto it. So, obviously, we've got this picture here that was put out from the marketing, and it looks so creepy. Nightmare fuel. Instead of getting real actors, real dwarf actors who need these roles, you know, who would earn a living through this movie, and the representation for the dwarf acting community would be represented in this movie. Instead of Disney doing that and having that positive message for the dwarf acting community, they decided to put these creepy, nightmare-fueled, you know, human dwarf hybrid things in here, and it looks creepy as hell. If I had a young child, I probably wouldn't let him watch this movie because it would give him nightmares looking at this. So, Disney has published the Snow White. Disney has pushed the Snow White release date back a year. It now comes out on March 21st, 2025. The first trailer, released in August, has 1.2 million dislikes from fans on YouTube. We'll go over and check out the YouTube trailer in just a sec and see what the dislike ratio is at. This is actually hilarious. The first Snow White saved Disney. The second ruined it, says the top comment with over 31,000 likes from the fans. So yeah, that's kind of what we're talking about here in this article. The origin behind the Snow White name is being changed. Instead of it being her skin as white as snow, it's now being changed to she was a baby princess who survived the snowstorm, and the king and queen gave her the name of Snow White. Whether that's a good change, whether that's a bad change, it sounds pretty dumb in my opinion. But you can understand why Disney's trying to avoid this kind of skin as white as snow, because it might offend some people. Whatever. But anyway, with that down, let's go over to the Snow White trailer here. Let's check out the statistics and some of the comments. So it's got 9.9 million views at the moment, as of a month ago when it debuted. And the dislike ratio, 92,000 likes to 1.2 million dislikes. So again, if this is any indication on the box office revenue that's going to come out when this movie debuts, it's not looking good for this movie whatsoever. We could be looking at Madam Web type of kind of box office revenue here, where this movie just bombs to oblivion. But with a $300 million budget, this movie has to make ridiculous amounts of money to make a profit. So let's read a few comments here anyway. Rachel Zegler, if you enjoyed the original movie, then this movie isn't for you. Well, guess this movie isn't for 99% of Disney fans. That's exactly the thing. Most of us I grew up with a VHS player watching that original Disney Snow White, and I absolutely loved it. There was no controversy, there was no complaints, nobody was, you know, moaning about that original Snow White, and unfortunately she had to come out and make comments about it. I came here purely because I saw on Facebook that this video has over 1 million downvotes, and I really wanted to be part of that community. Wow, Disney, you truly are incredible. It took you 3 years, multiple rewrites, unnecessary CGI, and $209 million, which is actually, I think it's gone up to over $300 million, just for me to enjoy a comment section of a movie I will never watch. People get more enjoyment from reading the comment section than they're actually going to get from watching the movie itself, which is kind of funny. 1.2 million dislikes. Congratulations, Disney. We'll read a couple more here. I have to admit, I do admire the bravery of Walt Disney Studios keeping the comment section open. They finally did it. They made a movie nobody is going to pirate. I love the creative comments that people come up with here. They're so funny. But that's just a few of the comments, guys. I invite you, if you want to read more, just go over to the trailer, jump down to the comment section, read the comments. I mean, you could sit there for 2 hours going through all the comments, just reading them if you fancy a good laugh, if you want to cheer yourself up. But yeah, that's kind of just, you know, the major issues that are going on here with the Snow White live action remake. Everything from, you know, the prince being called a weirdo and a stalker, to $300 million budget, to the origin of the actual Snow White name itself being changed. Can they change anything else? Is it actually Snow White anymore at this point? I'm not really sure. But guys, jump into the comment section. Let me know your thoughts, comments, and opinions on what's going on with the change of the origin to the Snow White name. Do you think it's a good change? Do you think it's a bad change? Do you think it's ridiculous like me? Whatever your thoughts are, can't wait to hear you guys. And be sure to hit that like and subscribe before you leave, and I will see you in the next one.